Thanks for joining me on the Strategic Thinking podcast. It's where we talk about technology in the way that it shows up in real life. This show lives in the messy middle between strategy and the day-to-day, keeping learning, work and operations moving in the midst of all the other demands on our plate. Most of all, the people that we work with and that we lead. I'm James Symons, and each episode I sit down with IT leaders, operators and builders across schools, universities and workplaces. Our promise is simple: practical and candid conversations that just may help IT leaders make technology work while being acutely aware of our responsibilities as leaders of people. If you're here, you're welcome. Pull up a seat and join us. Today's guest is Cara Carter, CTO of Northwest ISD in Texas. It's a district that has grown from 7,000 to over 33,000 students during her tenure. Cara started as a classroom teacher and now leads technology strategy across 35 campuses, tackling everything from cybersecurity threats to AI integration in K12. In this episode, we unpack what it really means to lead at scale, building a cyber-aware culture, stepping into AI before the roadmap is clear, and making hard decisions when not everyone understands the why. This conversation explores the emotional weight of leadership, balancing hard decisions, being misunderstood, caring deeply about people, and growing into the confidence required to lead at scale without losing heart. Let's get into it. Well, we have a very special guest on the show here today. We are still live at TCEA 2026. It's been a great series so far, and I've been really excited about talking to Cara. Cara, great having you. This is Cara Carter. This is the Australian accent. It's Cara Carter.
Yes.
Cara, you are the CTO at Northwest Independent School District in Texas. I am really excited about this episode because my other guests, I have tried to do as much preparation as possible beforehand, but I listened to a great podcast by Simon Sinek one time, and he was describing how he does it. And I'm like, well, I like this guy, so maybe I'll copy him. And he said, I don't research my guests at all. I like to go in absolutely blind, and then I feel that I'm going to have a really genuine conversation because it's curious. It truly is curiosity because I don't know anything myself. And the good thing is you don't know me. Yeah. So I'm hoping we have a fun conversation as we get to know each other. Tell me, we are here, you are a CTO at a school district. I know nothing about you, but I'm really excited about hearing your story. So how did you get to become a CTO at a school district? Tell me about Northwest. What is that school district? Where in Texas is it? Size, demographic, and what's been your journey?
Yeah. Well, that's a loaded question and quite a long answer.
Okay.
But essentially, Northwest ISD is in the DFW Metroplex. So if you know where the Texas Motor Speedway is, everybody recognizes that as a key location. We're the 234 square miles around that area.
Okay.
So we're a really fast growth district. It's crazy because I've been in my current district for about 20 years. So when we started, our student population has increased, quadrupled during my duration.
Wow.
So it keeps things exciting, and you're constantly like reinventing and lots of opportunity for growth and to work with a variety of people.
And when you say it's quadrupled, what was student size when you started, and how many campuses to student size campuses?
Yeah. So currently we're at a little over 33,000.
Wow.
When we started, gosh, I don't know, at the time that I was a teacher, it was a little bit less than 10,000. I'm wanting to say probably 7,000. I couldn't even tell you the amount of campuses we've had. We open up at least one campus every single year. So we have 234 square miles is approximately the size of Chicago. So that's a pretty big land mass. And while we're not the highest in population, we're definitely one of the highest in terms of the amount of space that we have and how big we can grow. It's a pretty affordable area too. And so I think that also contributes to the fast growth, because in a time where it's, some people are struggling and it's hard to figure out where you're going to grow your family, it's a really great place to buy a home and start your family. Our school district has a great reputation. So I think from that aspect, we'll continue to grow.
And 20 years ago, you joined. I'm guessing not as a CTO.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
That is accurate.
All right.
I started out teaching. I love teaching. I've always been a leader, no matter what my job and my career path has led me to. So I truly thought at the time that I would be going down the path of, principalship, curriculum leader, possibly superintendency. Technology wasn't on my radar. Business always has been. And so technology has obviously a lot of business components, but it wasn't necessarily the path that I immediately saw myself going towards. But as time would have it and as opportunities, doors opened and opportunities presented themselves, I pursued the technology leadership route. And it's been very rewarding, very challenging, and there's always something different every day.
So when did you get out of the classroom and what drove that?
When I was teaching, I used technology as a regular part of what I do, as a way to engage students, to engage parents. And it really felt like I was not the best, most efficient teacher that I could be without it. And so it was just a part of what I did. And then somebody kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, why don't you teach teachers what you're doing? And I loved the classroom and I knew I would miss it, but the opportunity to work with people on a broader scale felt like something that was going to be a good fit at the time. So that's my first step out of the classroom, was to teach teachers. And I loved it.
You liked it better than teaching kids?
There's a magic to teaching kids that I don't know that anything ever replaces, to be honest with you.
Did they lose their best classroom teacher when they took you out and then started getting you to teach kids?
Gosh, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know that I'd say they lost their best classroom teacher, but, I'm certainly very passionate about it, and being able to carry that passion to other teachers has been fun.
Right.
Because when you're working with teachers, you get to be in their classroom too, and you get to walk just even talking to kids now in the hall about their experience with technology and their experience in school is fun. So it's not something you lose. But I do think that when leadership positions open, you do tend to lose some really great teachers.
Right. And do you think that always works? I mean, it sounds like it's worked incredibly well for you. One of my mentors actually said that people get promoted to their level of incompetency. And again, I'm not talking about you here, but I say this only because you said you do see a lot of teachers leave the classroom and go into leadership or go into administration in some level.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes see that it can be almost detrimental to the schools, or sometimes people who are just so good with kids, so engaged, that it's almost like a position opens up for senior leadership or deputy principal, whatever it might be, and we're like, well, that person is just shining, let's put them in this role. But then they're like, but are they always built for that? And then, I mean, I've met people that go, I tried it and I went back. Like, it wasn't for me. And it's like, and it wasn't that, oh, I didn't climb up the ladder. It was, it's not what I was cut out to be. It's not who I am, right? Like I trained to be a teacher. I wanted to be around kids, and I then got put in a position that it just wasn't my natural self, or it wasn't. But then I have seen some of even my really good friends and now principals of schools, and it's like, they were great teachers, but they're phenomenal principals.
Yeah.
They're great administrators. And so you see it work really well. Are you seeing both sides of that sometimes?
I absolutely have. On a completely personal note, my husband was kind of in the same boat. He loved teaching, and he is magical in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And he did the same thing. He kind of climbed the ladder. He was an assistant principal, a principal. I say he's taken the tour of all administrative roles. But at the end of the day, his heart was with those kids. And every single day he was out of the classroom, I saw a piece of his heart missing, and and ultimately he found his way back to the classroom, and I encouraged him to do that. And he's never been happier, just being right there where he was called to be. So I think you're right. You can't just continue to promote people out of the classroom if it's not really where they're called to be. Mm-hmm. And I hope that if that's not the right fit, that they have the courage to go find it.
Yeah.
And I've been the same way. I've promoted people out of the classroom that's like, hey, I think you're going to be a really good fit here. But then you could see that it wasn't what they were called to do. Like, that passion wasn't always there. Yeah. And in which case I helped them find their way to wherever that was. And I have lost a couple people that wanted to go back and just be with kids every day.
Yeah. Wow. So as I said, I know very, very little about you. Mm-hmm. But even just 2 minutes before we started, you were looking at your phone and you said it was great that this conference is on the weekend because you didn't get any interruptions on Saturday or Sunday because no one was at work. But come Monday morning, your phone's lighting up. So tell me, what does your phone light up with on a Monday morning that requires your immediate attention? What are some of the big things? I mean, I'm not asking, tell me what that call was about. I'm curious to know, in your line of work and the responsibility you have as CTO of a district of 33,000 students, how many campuses do you have?
We are at 35 campuses.
Wow. And just for our listeners, that's from K-12, right?
Yes.
We're talking
pre-K, technically.
Pre-K, elementary, middle, and high schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the big things that your phone will light up about? And what are some of the, I suppose, you can call them crises or fires that you're fighting that are probably like an everyday constant, but in your wheelhouse to manage? Like, what's a day look like in your shoes?
Yeah. That's a good question. First of all, I feel like I need to correct you because I did say that I didn't get as many calls on the weekend. But the fact of the reality is, I would say on the weekends, typically for the most part, it's more like crisis related, like, people running facilities and they can't get into the facilities. It could be a challenge with a student, like a student investigation. When you're serving a community where you've got 33,000 kids, there are always going to be challenges that you need to work hard with whatever the partner is to get it solved, whether it be the principal or, there's just a variety of things. Now, once during the week happens, it's typically more strategic, more planning, meetings, implementations. But it really could be anything from, last week Microsoft was down, right? So if you can't email your community in a time when we had to cancel 5 days a week for weather, your brain is constantly pivoting to what are some alternative routes that I can get that information out? What are some other ways that I can support my leaders in terms of communicating? They can't take a break. Every system that I have supports the entire enterprise. So it could be anything.
Wow. Right. You're ultimately the one that's got to direct that. What's your team like? Tell me about how you get that support. You just talked about supporting your leaders. How do they support you? Like, so how do you set up a network to know that your phone isn't getting called 50 times a day? I mean, how do you divert the calls to them sometimes? Like, so describe to me a little bit of how you work with your close team and how you divide the responsibilities that are ultimately on your shoulders to empower those around you to run with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I look at my team in two different ways. So I have my peer team, which is my cabinet leaders, right? Everybody who's the head of their organization. So whether it be CFO, the head of HR, my superintendent, my head of communications, I look at them like they are my team. And then I also have my team, which is the technology team. So it's both of those. I think a lot of it is making sure that everybody has a better understanding of who their immediate contacts could be should they not be able to get a hold of me, and constantly empowering them with ways to solve their own problems. But at the end of the day, I'm in the service industry to take care of people and to take care of kids. Sure. And I know the weight of that responsibility. Mm-hmm. And so there are always times where, you have to jump in. I always try, like on the weekends, I try to be really strategic in terms of who I'm reaching out to. Like somebody on the way here, for example, I drove down on a Friday and my counterpart was like, well, why are you calling Matt as opposed to Mike? Like you always call Mike for this. And I was like, well, I've already called Mike twice. My thing is I can only call them, twice during the day when we're off. So I'm going to pivot that. I've got great directors that work with me and they've always empowered their teams. We promote from within, and so that's good. They know everybody's roles, so they can kind of help solve more than just what would be under their direct purview. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if we have a cybersecurity concern and we've got to get in there, we've got to stop it, we've got to pivot to a different direction to make sure that our students stay safe and that our business operations can continue as status quo, that everybody can kind of figure out who they need to reach out to.
How do you regularly communicate with your team? Do you have one-on-ones? What rhythm do you kind of set up? Is it more organic? Is it pretty structured to know that everyone's on top of what they need to be on top of? You feel comfortable that things are going the way that they should be? Like, what's your mechanism for feeling, at least to some degree, in control of the team and the responsibility in that structure? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of formal and informal.
Mm-hmm.
So I really have 3 departments under me. So I've got infrastructure technology, which is very traditional in terms of what people think of technology, right? Like cybersecurity, networking, phones, physical security, like badging into buildings, those types of things. And then I have instructional technology, which is capitalizing on the way that devices are used in the classroom, making sure that teachers know how to use them in a way that's safe and meaningful for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then data governance, which is all data in transit throughout the organization. And so having 3 teams that work really great together, but that are also very focused on what their purpose is. Each of those 3 teams have a leader that has those regular cadences, those regular meetings. And so I make sure that it's weekly or biweekly that they are leading those meetings, and I sit in as part of those, but they take the reins. And I'm just sitting there listening and making connections, and they're all equipped to handle and solve their own problems, but that's a good place for me to say, hey, let's pivot, let's merge these 2 ideas together. So that's the formal way of doing it. The informal way is just getting up from my desk and standing over them when I have a question. And it's amazing how much you can hear about different things going on and different needs when you're just in the space with them doing the hard work.
That second part, we're talking about being there and just overhearing. I mean, this is one of the things that we've lost since COVID, right?
Yeah.
So maybe not so much in your industry, in the tech world or in, I suppose, most enterprise environments, that the flexibility for working at home has increased and teams are very grateful for that. But it's also meant that sometimes people just are never seeing their colleagues. They're never working together.
Yeah.
So how was that over COVID when you didn't have that spontaneous, I mean, so much can happen just over a casual conversation, or you hear someone say something that you go, actually, I'm not sure if that was right because I just heard something completely contrary to that by someone else. Have you guys connected on that? I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I mean, we miss that, right? If we're not in the same room. And so coming out, did you have that? Obviously, during COVID, was it more difficult to not have that? And was that noticeable, that sort of spontaneous problem solving or collaboration wasn't happening, and there was a ill effect of that, and you really felt it come back again when you got back after that time? What was that like?
Yeah, gosh, that's a really good question, because I think one of my strengths as a leader is being that whole social emotional intelligence, like knowing what your people need. And sometimes you can just see it in their eyes that they're frustrated, or, hey, this isn't a time for me to be going in and just asking questions like, hey, what's our next move here? When are we going to pivot to blank? And you can see that on people. So you know when to push and when to just step in as support. And so not having that piece when you're constantly just communicating with people via Teams or whatever your remote communication is, I don't know if I'm approaching you at a good time or a bad time. I don't know what baggage you're bringing to that day, or if this is hey, this is fun, like let's talk about really cool big ideas.
Yeah.
So I would think for me, the biggest thing was talking about those big fun ideas of where are we going to be 3 steps ahead of the game or 10 steps ahead of the game. That part was missing because you couldn't see the passion and the excitement in people's eyes. And some days it's there and some days it's not. And when it's not there, there's probably other circumstances that probably need your immediate attention. So it was very, very difficult when we were all separate.
So being in the role that you are in, a huge amount of responsibility on your shoulders. Every now and again, we have some things that go really well and we get to celebrate those wins. Since you've been in this role, making your way into a leadership position and a lot of responsibility on your shoulders, what's an initiative you've led, been a part of, that you're really proud of, that you were, not everything went well, but on reflection, you could see the certain things that were done that enabled the project to work well and has had a really positive outcome, that you go, this is what I want to be in this role for. Is there any sort of pivotal or flagship moment that you can think of that it's like, yeah, so far that one takes the cake?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. There's 2 that I'm like, this direction. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 2 things, I think. One is more on the technical end, right? Cybersecurity in a day and age right now of what we're facing in K12 is the most challenging, probably the most challenging aspect of my job and anybody's job, right? Like We are known to have more cyber attacks, cyber events, cyber attempts than any other industry right now because our data is very lucrative. We're typically known for not being able to employ staff in a way that other markets and industries can, right? And people don't always know. Like, we're just trying to help people. Teachers are trying to help people. Leaders are trying to help people. So in some ways that can create some vulnerabilities within your organization. So early on, I knew that one of my goals was to create a really cyber conscious environment. And how do you do that for people that don't want to talk about cybersecurity, or it feels scary, or if it feels like this huge scary thing and they're not sure exactly what to do or how to do it and they're embarrassed. So I think that one of the things that I'm really proud of is how involved our leaders, our non-technology leaders, are in our cybersecurity posture. The culture of caution that we've created and empowered them to recognize threats and to support me when I have to make hard decisions of, listen, no, we're not going to use that. And I'm sorry, I know you really want to do this and it feels like the best deal, but it's not what's best for our organization. That felt like a small decision after small decision and training after training. And then all of a sudden, when you're in, talking to your peers, you realize, wow, we have arrived. We have done a really good job with our leaders, understanding why sometimes things feel hard. So I would say the cyber environment. And then the other one, which you're probably going to hear from other people, is our take on artificial intelligence and how it is obviously changing the landscape of education. It's changing the landscape of operations and business. And I think we have done a really good job saying, I know this is big, I know this is scary, but we need to be a part of that conversation now, because if we're not a part of the conversation, it's happening. So we either participate or not, and then we will have zero control.
And how has that been?
It's been rewarding. It's been insightful. It's been a little messy because if you're an organization that likes to be on the front end of innovation, then you're doing things before everybody has it figured out, And so there can be things that you learn along the way that you're like, oh, well, I would have used this resources. I would have blocked this avenue. But at the end of the day, I think we are all understanding that regardless of how scary it feels, it's the world that the kids are in. And if our mission as a district is to help kids confidently navigate their future, there is no way that we can do that if we're not having conversations about the appropriate way to use AI.
So you've just mentioned 2 success stories. A lot of the time we can high five when things go well. But if I was to ask someone, can you articulate why it went well so that it's able to be replicated, would you be able to do so? And so in both of those circumstances, you got great outcomes. And you did mention there was, small bits of information, and there was, small steps that led to the outcome working. How would you define, or what would you put down to why that worked out well? Like, how did you get engagement from so many stakeholders to get them on board for, be behind this and actually execute it? So in both of those types, like, you got some skills now. One about this cybersecurity example was brilliant. AI, you might be going, no, there's people that are just so afraid of it, or they do not want to engage with that at all. They've got very divisive opinions about it. We're like, there's no way we can do it. And we even see those fractures at the top. So to get to the outcome that you have and have so many stakeholders be on board, and you say, I'm so proud of it that we're all marching in the same direction. What were the things that allowed that to come together? Like, what do you think the recipe to that success was as you went along to get those stakeholders on board?
Yeah, I think with both, we'll start with the artificial intelligence. I think that hearing everybody's biggest concerns and not being afraid to hear them. Things change, and everybody naturally will have some things that concern them or some setbacks of, I'm worried about blank. Being willing to have those conversations and being willing to hear that, I think, is by far, like, that is something that we have to be willing to do as leaders and have conversations before you have the answers. So I think that those have been really great. Providing resources for people, understanding that any substantial change isn't from one magical decision. It's from a series of ongoing intentional conversations and intentional interactions every single day.
And that was the same case, do you think, on the
with the
cyber?
cybersecurity? I do. I think with cybersecurity, it's a little bit different because you're constantly teaching people, and it's not a fun topic. Whereas AI, people have such firsthand experiences. We always say that you can't change people's minds until you change their experience. Well, with AI, you can change people's experiences like that. You know, all you have to do is listen to what their problems are, and you're like, hey, let me show you this. Now let's talk about how to do that in a meaningful way. With cybersecurity, it's not something that people would ever say, hey, I want to talk about this. Let's talk about the best way to protect our kids. And but it is the reality of the world that we're in. And I know I would not be taking care of my community if I wasn't taking actionable steps towards that. So it is a series of, there wasn't one huge component, but strategically opening up people's eyes to the real risks that are out there, and also letting people see my heart. You know, we talked about, I'm a teacher, my husband's a teacher, I've got 3 kids in the organization. I want you to have an amazing, meaningful experience in the classroom every single day. But I also know that I have to do that in a way that's protecting you and the kids and their parents. And so letting them see your heart, I think, is a huge piece of leadership, and knowing how much you care, which can get harder as you climb the ladder because, you know, when your circle is small, you can let people see your heart every day.
Yeah.
And then now that the community that I serve is, yes, it's 33,000 kids, but it's also their parents and their families, and they can't see my heart and know why I'm making the decisions that I'm making.
How do you deal with that? Because I can sense a deep sense of care that comes from you. You care deeply about the kids. My experience is people with that sense of compassion also take it pretty hard when people are like, they think I'm horrible and they don't understand I've got the best intentions. Like, how do you deal with it? Like, what are times where, can you think of a time where you actually feel you've been misunderstood, or, you know, a decision's been made and people have not got the context? And sometimes, unfortunately, they can't get the context, right? So, but you're a human. You go home and you think about it.
Yeah.
So what goes on for you? And is there can you think of a time where that's actually happened, where you're like, yeah, I didn't come out looking really good on this, and I feel crap about it because that's not what my heart was?
Gosh, I wish I would have had these questions before, because yes,
There's a
I'm
reason
thinking
that
of
I don't do
places,
it.
and this is recorded and this is public.
We can always edit it out if it's as vulnerable as
But I'm
you
like,
like.
oh, maybe I shouldn't have shared that piece.
Yeah.
You know, I think you make decisions for your immediate team, and then you make decisions for the entire stakeholder group. And there are some times where, as the immediate, like my immediate team, where we've had to say, hey, listen, I feel like this is what's best for the organization. I am probably going to shy away from saying specific examples.
Well, without the example, let me know the outcome. Like, what went on for you during a period of time? Was it over a week? Was it over a month? Was it over 6 months? And how did you just personally cope with it? Like, what was going on for you? Like, I've just assumed, oh, you would have taken it really personally. Maybe you don't. You're like, no, James, you misread me. I couldn't care less. I want to know, like, what goes on for you when you feel that just stuff doesn't go as well as you had hoped, or that you feel that, yeah, unfortunately, not everyone's going to see the context. And firstly, what was the space you're in? And then secondly, how did you get out of that space?
Yeah. Okay. That's great. I would say, especially as a newer leader, 10 years ago when I first started stepping into these heavy, hard leadership roles, and you're shifting teams, you're moving people from one team to the other.
Right.
You're changing the direction of what used to be. I mean, education changes every day. So our vision and mission of taking care of kids has never changed, but the way in which we take care of kids changes all the time. So what somebody's role used to be does look different now than what it could have maybe looked like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so making those strategic changes that I know in my heart are what's best for the organization. And I know I was hired to make that vision a reality.
Right.
It doesn't make it easier on people. But I think with my immediate team, I hope that they know how much I care and where my heart is. So at first, it used to be really hard. Like when you're in a new leader, you want everybody to like you and care about you. And At this point, I also understand that there is so much that we can't see, and I get through it by connecting with peers, right? There's other people. There's only one CTO in every district, and whether it's a CTO or executive director of technology, they are responsible for every operation that happens in that district, whether it's attendance, enrollment, network, cybersecurity, whether or not the Chromebook works in the classroom, and they feel that way. So for me, a lot of times it's been connecting with my peers. I'm super close to my CTO peers, and that's definitely helped. And with my team, now that I have been in my role for so long, most of them know that, hey, I might not agree with the decision and I may not understand the decision, but I trust her. I know that she cares about us, she cares about the kids, and that she's going to be making the best decisions. So it does not bother me as much as it used to, but I think it's a level of confidence that comes with leadership that only time can give you.
And let's get philosophical for a second. Do you think we ever stop caring about what people think about us?
Probably not. And you know what? I think that makes you a great leader, right? Like, you have to care what other people think.
Right.
Because nobody
I'll change that question. Do you still care deeply about what other people think about you?
Yes.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
You're right. I there's a part of me that hopes that never goes away.
Yeah.
Right? Like, doesn't that mean we've given up? Like, we're a bit cold at that stage?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. As you said, like in the early days, we might even compromise what we believe, or we might even compromise what the best decision is, because that desire to be liked is so strong. We actually probably make the wrong decisions because we're making it to be liked. And I think maybe that's more, will you tell me, do you think it's more as time goes on, we just don't let that dictate maybe, or it doesn't hold as much weight to when we need to make a decision that we truly believe is right, even if some people are going to be hurt, upset, hate us. We understand that's coming. We still care deeply that it's not going to go well and they'll be upset, and I'll need to hopefully enter into some conversations with hearing them and hopefully explain them. But sometimes I may not get that opportunity and they still may hate me.
Yeah.
But having that assurance, I still believe I've done the right thing, but it doesn't keep me awake as much as it did, because my identity is no longer formed so much in being liked rather than going, I'm a little more secure in what I'm doing, and I do believe that what I'm doing is best, and even checking that with other people. Am I on the wrong planet here?
Yeah.
Do you feel that's probably where it goes?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. That is not maybe what drives your decision.
Yeah.
And you're also comfortable with, that eventually people will see why that decision had to be made. In a time like K12 with staffing, for example, you only basically get to choose 1 or 2 positions per year, if that, and you're constantly decreasing the size of your team. So choosing where you're going to strategically put people, not everybody understands why you're making those decisions. But when I was a new leader, I felt like I needed them to get to the, I get it, very quickly. Now it's like, okay, you may not get to the, I get it, for another year. And I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that whole year of, you may not see why I've made the decisions I've made.
Cara, my hope today was to not just to interview you and ask you about leadership and what works for you, what doesn't, but my hope was that I would get to know who Cara was and bring out your humanity, and I've been able to see that. You've done a wonderful job. The listeners have heard, I think, a very inspiring story of someone that has followed their passion and has been able to stay in the space that they're trained and they love, which is in students, and even in the midst of senior leadership and a whole lot of business and administration and meetings. I think it's been great to hear how you've stayed grounded in what the mission is. And I think that's come out today. I'm really glad that was seen and heard. And it's just been a real honor having you on the podcast. So thank you so much for coming on and having a chat with me. It's been really nice.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Great. Thanks so much.